So they're like $5 on Amazon. Buy one and try it. I will die on the hill that it will significantly improve your life.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Basics Podcast, the realest fitness podcast in the world. Dylan, it is great to see you this week, but I think we got to start the show on a slightly somber tone. I hate to do it, but we lost a fitness icon over the weekend here. Richard Simmons uh, has died at the age of 76. Now, um, we were a little late in the Richard Simmons uh, life cycle, I guess. You know, he wasn't really somebody that growing up was a huge influence for me, but uh, I know that he impacted a lot of people. So I think it would be a miss on our part if we didn't just at least spend a little bit of time talking about what he meant to the health and wellness community.
Yeah, man, he's the OG fitness influencer. But you didn't find him on Instagram. You found him on VHS. Pretty crazy to think that he got popular through VHS tapes and people's VCRs. But I think I did some reading on him, number of different articles after he passed, because like you said, we didn't exactly grow up with him. So I was kind of interested in him. And I think a lot of his message was very similar to ours. He kind of preached just being yourself, being positive, having fun, kind of having some control with your portions of foods and moving your body a little bit more. It wasn't really super prescriptive or super intense. It was really just simply we can be healthy through being a bit more positive, moving a bit more, and maybe eating the way that we're supposed to. So yeah, he's kind of a cool dude.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember seeing the infomercials growing up of, sweating with the oldies and him in his headband and frizzy hair and jumping around like a maniac. And I remember even then, I didn't really understand it, but he was just a guy that really drew you in, and his enthusiasm was absolutely infectious. I know that especially like later in his career, he just kind of basically just disappeared after, however many years that he, was in in the spotlight. And, you just, you hope that people that are that, just outwardly exuberant in front of the camera and in front of people, uh, really do have that same type of joy that that they present to people in their everyday life. And so again, I don't know a whole lot about Richard Simmons, but I do know that his message seemed awesome, and I know that he impacted the lives of a ton of people. And so, I really do hope that uh, he lived as good of a life as it looked, because man, it looked like he was having a great time.
Yeah, man, he grew up fat.
Hmm.
He was like 200 pounds in 8th grade, graduated high school at almost 300 pounds, very unhappy, um, bewildered teenager, as one of the articles quotes him as stating. And he tried a bunch of diets, he tried different supplements. Nothing really worked until he found a lifestyle of balance, of moderate eating, and of exercise. And ultimately, his life's work became making exercise fun for as many people as possible. So yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah. All right, let's transition to the main topic of the day. It is episode 25 here at the Better Basics podcast. So we thought that we would just have a real casual conversation about the 25 things that you, the listeners, can do today to make your life instantly better. So to make your life a little healthier, I guess. So we decided to do this chronologically. So we started with from the very beginning of the day all the way until the very end, 25 things that if you just started implementing a couple of these uh, on a daily basis, you are going to see just profound changes in your life. So here we go. Dylan, kick us off.
Will do. Yeah, and um, I think it's worth stating that these aren't going to be like super complex things. They're pretty simple, basic things. You could literally just start doing tomorrow with very little investment. Um, and so the first one on the list here is simply to wake up at a consistent time every day. And this is really important. So we'll talk about a number of them related to sleep, right? Sleep is probably pillar number one with regards to your health. It is so critically important, and it's difficult for a lot of people. We have busy, stressful lives. Maybe we have kids, whatever it is. But you really should be doing everything you can to prioritize your sleep within kind of the constraints that you have around your life. And a lot has to do with your circadian rhythm. So there's a rhythm that you have sort of internally that dictates when you should be going to sleep, when you should be waking up, and all of that influences the quality of the sleep that you get. And so by waking up at a consistent time, you're maintaining and setting that circadian rhythm for the day, which is going to make it easier to fall asleep at night, is going to improve that quality of sleep you get overnight, and then will sort of just repeat itself, become habitual with regards to just the overall quality of your sleep.
Yeah. And it really helps with being able to set a schedule too. I feel like a lot of issues that people have throughout their day are simply not being prepared and rushing from thing to thing. And, a lot of times, especially if you have one of these, weekend warrior, working for the weekend types where, maybe during the week you're going to bed at, or, you're waking up at a consistent time, and then on the weekends it's all over the place. I even on weekends, and maybe it's a little bit later on the weekend, because you're sleeping and you're able to, maybe you're staying out a little bit later, but you just want to make sure that you're not having these major swings in the times that you're getting up just because, you don't have to work early one day, because like you said, the circadian rhythm is super important. But then also just as far as, being productive and not rushing from place to place, I think that's super important. The next one, this one, you put it on the list. It's something that you actually put me on in general, but now it's a part of my daily practice, and it's scrape your tongue. This is if you've never heard of tongue scraping before, you're gonna think it's super weird, but trust me when I say that it is one of the easiest things that you can do to just have a fresher mouth.
Yeah, that's essentially it. I will die on this hill. I love tongue scraping.
Mhm.
First thing in the morning before I brush my teeth, you scrape all that crap that's accumulated in your mouth overnight off your tongue, and I'm sure there's a handful of associated health and or dental health benefits, but really for me, it just feels clean. It feels really good to get that crap out of there, and just feels like you have a fresher mouth.
Yeah,
So they're like $5 on Amazon. Buy one and try it. Low cost investment to give it a shot, and I will die on the hill that it will significantly improve your life.
yeah, I agree.
Number three, after you've scraped your tongue and brushed your teeth, the first thing you should do in the morning is hydrate. Get a good 16 plus ounces of water the minute you wake up. You lose a ton overnight through breathing, through sweating. So most people wake up pretty dehydrated, and getting that hydration first thing in the morning gets your body going. Very good for you. Feels good, right? And for
Yeah,
me, it gets that digestive system rocking and leads to typically a pretty consistent, pretty healthy snake in the toilet in the morning.
there it is. I would actually recommend I would do this before tongue scraping and brushing my teeth. I mean, like you said, it's one of the very first things that I would do. Get out of bed and immediately drink water, but I know that, everybody has a personal preference there. If you want to supercharge it a little bit, a little bit of salt, and maybe some lemon even, but the salt especially is going to provide, a little bit of those electrolytes and help your body absorb that water, because you do lose a lot over the course of the night. So, um,
Dude, I disagree
you wait, you disagree about what?
about the timing. You gotta get that nasty shit out of your mouth before you drinking this water. Otherwise, you're
I
drinking that
disagree.
nasty shit in your mouth.
And if you want to, go down the kind of like Ayurvedic, more like woo woo side of things, they would say that you actually should, you drink water, and what all that stuff in your mouth, you should swallow that first bit and then
Mm,
scrape out, rinse your mouth. They would recommend doing like some oil pulling, which I try to get into oil pulling like 2 or 3 times a year, and it just hasn't stuck for me. I do really like the way that it makes my mouth feel, but it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
you're a hippie at heart.
No, I just hate going to the dentist, man. All right. The next one is do some light yoga, stretching, jumping jacks, whatever it is. First thing in the morning. So you've got your water, either before or after brushing your teeth, whether you're Camp Matt or Camp Dylan, doesn't matter. But then you want to make sure that you're getting some movement. And this could actually be something. This is another one where, depending on how you wake up, this might be something that if you're somebody that struggles to get out of bed, if you are a snooze button person, then you probably, this should be just something right out of bed, do some push-ups, do a couple jumping jacks, like get moving right away, because getting that blood pumping and that heart rate elevated is going to start improving your energy levels. And so while I usually wait a little bit before I start to do my morning movement, if you if you really struggle to get out of bed, this should be something that you reach for, because it really seriously has a profound impact on how you feel.
Yeah, I do this while I'm making my coffee. We've talked a bit about my coffee habit and that it is more of an active pursuit than a passive one. I don't just press a button on a coffee maker. I'm a pour over guy. So, um, while I'm waiting 45 seconds for my coffee to bloom, I'll hit some air squats. Or I've always liked the qigong shake,
Yeah.
which is essentially just like making your body limp and just shaking it. But yeah, man, like anything you can do just to get your body moving first thing in the day, with that hydration, really good for getting the day going.
Yeah, and I'm the hippie one.
Fair enough. Next one here is to get outside in the morning.
Mhm.
So, you can combine some of these, right? Like it could be a morning walk
Yeah, I love
to get
that.
your body moving and get outside at the same time. But um, the benefit here is again associated with sleep and your circadian rhythm. So we know it's really important to get sunlight, daylight into your eyes,
Unfiltered morning
uh,
sunlight. So that's where
unfiltered.
the getting outside part is important too.
Yep, absolutely right. Early in the morning to reset that circadian rhythm again. So the decision you're making first thing in the morning, if you're a person who, you wake up and you go right into your office with limited daylight and don't get that morning sunlight, you're gonna have a harder time resetting that circadian rhythm. You're gonna have a harder time getting to sleep at night, and that quality of sleep is gonna suffer. So it's simple to do. I think the prescription from the studies is around 15 minutes, so it doesn't take a lot of time. But yeah, that morning sunlight in your eyeballs is key.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Dylan, but I don't necessarily think that 15 minutes needs to be consecutive either. So, if you only have a few minutes right away, and that it's better than nothing. I guess is the bigger point here. So, yeah, more the better. But if it's 2 minutes, if it's 5 minutes, that's still gonna have a bigger impact than not doing it at all. The next one is to eat a high protein breakfast. Obviously, you know, I love cereal as much as the next guy. I grew up in a cereal household, and my household just can't be a cereal household because otherwise, we don't have like it's all gone. It's all single serving. So every once in a while, I'll treat myself and my family to uh, some of like the Costco. I'll get like the big thing of the frosted mini wheats um, because I'm a sucker for frosted mini wheats, but. Uh, that can't be your standalone. There's got to be some protein to go along with it. So, we've said it before and we'll say it again. Eggs are your best friend in this situation. Uh, but, there are plenty of delicious breakfast meats out there. Just make sure what do you think? Is it like at least 30 grams, like 30 to 50 grams of protein? It depends on what your ideal protein target is, but for the majority of people, if you can hit between 30 to 50 grams of protein with your breakfast, you're in really good shape.
Yeah, I'd say to like 30 to 40% even of what your daily protein goal is.
Yeah, so
I think
that's
there's
even more
two
for some
really
people.
important. Yeah, I think it's really important for two reasons. One, if you're trying to prioritize protein and hit a daily protein goal, if you don't start off strong, you're going to have a really hard time catching up throughout the course of the day. And I think to your point, breakfast foods traditionally are just not that high protein. So if you start your day with 10 and your goal is 150, you're not really setting yourself up for success throughout the rest of the day. And there's tons of options. You mentioned some of them. Yogurt's great. A smoothie with some protein powder can be fantastic. You can pick what works for you, but yeah, I'd aim for like 30 to 40% of your daily protein goal. The other reason is it's super satiating. So if you eat, and we know this, if you eat something that's super high in carbohydrate or sugar, it's going to set off a blood sugar roller coaster for the rest of the day. You're going to have cravings. You're going to be hungrier. By starting the day with a high protein breakfast, you'll be more satiated. You'll last a bit longer into the day without those cravings and without that hunger. So if weight management is an emphasis for you, it becomes even more important.
Hmm. For sure.
Next one on the list is to sit down and plan your day. This is a huge one for me. I think it's important for being successful. I think it's maybe in my case even more important for managing stress. Like if there are all sorts of things I have to do throughout the course of the day, from work to home life to you name it, the best thing that I can do the first thing in the morning is sit down and take inventory of it. And for me, it's just literally a to-do list. I write everything down. I have a little piece of paper with little empty white boxes on it, and I just go through my day, checking things off and making sure that I get everything done. Integrate that with something like your calendar, and I'm talking. It doesn't have to be super rigid, but you want to work out that day, figure out where it fits, and just have a good idea, kind of an inventory of what you want to get done and when you're going to get it done to be effective and successful at doing so.
Yeah, I mean, as a forgetful person, if I don't plan my day, I'm screwed. And that each, there's even a little bit more to it where, it even comes down to planning the week so that when I plan my day, I already, everything's on the calendar. It's just a matter of reviewing it. And then I think, where it becomes really important is setting the goals for the day. Because, if you can write down, and this is something that I got from a journal called the Productivity Planner, and it's the same company that makes the 5 Minute Journal. Um, and in the Productivity Planner, it says, if I could only accomplish one task today, it would be, and you write that out. And then it goes, after I've accomplished this task, it would be great if I could accomplish. And then there's a space for two or three more things. And then, after that, it's if I get all that done, additionally, I'd like to accomplish. And then there's a bunch of different spaces. And that really helps you not just, plan the day, but also prioritize your day so that, you can have a plan of attack and make sure that even at the end of the day, if you only got that one thing done, you can still count it as a win. So yeah, I think this one's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I really like the Eisenhower matrix too, where you kind of think about a matrix of importance on one axis and urgency on another.
Oh, sure.
And so you kind of take inventory of all the things you need to do and then kind of plot them, and really focus on the things that are highly important to, achieving your goals, whether those are personal or professional that day. And then those that are the most urgent, requiring the most immediate attention, the things that fall into that category, higher priority should be higher on the list, whereas things that are maybe a little bit less important and less urgent can kind of take a back seat and maybe they get pushed to later in the week.
Yeah, and sometimes it's helpful to I don't know if I've heard of that before, the Eisenhower matrix. I like that. But sometimes it's really helpful to when you plot things out like that, you have these things that are just kind of sticking in your craw that you feel like are so important that you need to get done. But then when
Exactly.
you actually quantify it like that, you realize that it's just something that is stuck in your head for some reason and not actually something that's gonna, be a big rock to move to the for the day. So yeah, I love that one. The next one, well, if you listen to the last episode, you know how we feel about this, but find an exercise plan that works for you. So I think that's important because it's not going to be exercise for an hour uh, for everybody. That's just not the way that it works. It's not even going to be 30 minutes every day. It's finding a program that works for you and then figuring out how to implement that into your day. So, whether that is strength training 3 days a week or for an hour, or it's 15 minutes a day every day. The thing is, you got to take a look at your life, figure out what type of program would benefit you and seamlessly integrate, and then find what that program looks like.
Yeah, man. And remember, like, going for a long walk is good exercise.
Hmm.
Playing around a golf and choosing to walk is good exercise. I find myself in the summer when I play golf and I walk, I have to strength train less. Like it is taxing, and it can be recuperative and recovery focused as well, but your stress bucket's only so big. So again, you kind of got to take inventory of your life and figure out what's going to work and what you're actually going to do and stick to, which we talked a lot about last time. But the best exercise, we've said this time and time again, is the one that you're going to do and going to do consistently. So we spend a lot of time talking about how important strength training is. We strongly believe that. But if strength training isn't going to work for you right now, um, find what will and do it regularly, because it's just exercising in general that's good for your health and important.
For sure.
Next one we have on the list is to buy a nice stainless steel water bottle. And this is really about staying hydrated throughout the course of the day. But for me, it's just a game changer to have that one water bottle that I can go to, that I'm regularly filling up throughout the course of the day. Just ensures that I have something that I'm constantly grabbing, constantly sipping on. Um, Stainless steel better than plastic, because we know that the microplastics degrade and then you consume them, and that's not so good. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't drink enough water just because they don't have enough water easily accessible,
Right.
and this makes that super easy.
Yeah, it's not like it were in elementary school anymore where they have us wait in line and take breaks at the bubbler, water.
That was
Yeah,
awesome
it
though.
was awesome, but unless the kid in front of you took longer than the allotted 10 seconds and drank all the cold water. But besides that, it was great. But I mean, yeah, like we live in a time where for the majority of people, especially in the United States, there is no excuse for being dehydrated. It is simply a choice for a lot of people. And so I really do. I like the move. You got to have something that you and you figure out how big it is, and then how many times throughout the day do I have to refill it, and you just turn it into a bit of a game with yourself. And then you create these little benchmarks. Okay, well, it's already noon. How much water have I drank? You're either way ahead or way behind. But yeah, I think that's a great one. The next thing is
There's one thing I want to say on
oh,
that
okay.
point, because I fucked this one up. When I bought my first one, I bought the 32-ounce Hydro Flask,
Yeah,
because I wanted something big. Those don't fit in cup holders very well.
right.
So I quickly found myself, with the 24-ounce Hydro Flask, which still holds quite a bit of water, but actually fits in the cup holder. So just something to keep in mind. I think
Are
that's
you
why
a
Stanley got so popular because they're
uh-huh.
big. They get wider at the top, but they're thin at the bottom, so they fit in the cup holder.
Nice. That makes sense. Are you a straw guy or
I do.
you
I find myself drinking a lot more if I have the straw.
makes it easier,
Yeah.
but you gotta
Yeah,
clean
it
it.
just makes it
Clean the
easier.
straw.
You do and I don't. But yeah, good point. That's a tip too.
Well, you should clean it is the point. Clean the straws, everybody.
You should clean your water bottle in general, and I don't really. They've done tests on these things,
Yeah,
they get dirty. They get nasty.
they get dirty
So
for
clean
sure.
it too. Yeah.
Just a little PSA out there. All right.
PSA.
Next up, take a short walk after each meal. This is another one. We say it so many times, but that's because it's so freaking simple. There are so many benefits to moving after you eat. And and again, we say walk, but it could be a dance party with the family. It could be wrestling with your kid. Whatever it is, just make sure that when you're done eating, instead of migrating to the couch and just vegging out, that you move around a little bit. It's going to help the digestion. It's going to make you feel better. There's so many positives to this. So, yeah, please start doing it.
Yeah, super helpful for digestion, super helpful way to kind of break down a daily step goal into like 3 little segments. And they've done studies on blood sugar control and regulation, and I think like 2 minutes of walking after eating can help to regulate your blood sugar spike. So it doesn't take a ton, but a good 10-minute walk after every meal, easy to do, doesn't take a ton of time, super important for your health. Next one we have on the list is to make a doctor appointment. I can't tell you how many friends and family members I have that haven't been to the doctor in 5+ years. And this is really important. Like, you're 30 some years old or whatever, you feel like you're relatively healthy, but it's good when you're healthy to one, establish a baseline. So get your labs drawn, figure out where you're at. Um, but we have a friend who recently went to the doctor. Their blood control was super high, and or excuse me, their blood pressure was super super high, and they call blood pressure the silent killer, right?
Hmm.
And he would otherwise thought he was perfectly healthy and perfectly fine. He had no symptoms of anything. So some of these things can hide. It's good to know, and it really is as invincible as we can feel. Important to see the doctor regularly.
Yeah, I just took this advice. I made an appointment to get some blood drawn in the next couple weeks. So yeah, I mean, it's not something that um, I personally I try to avoid the doctor as often as I can, but I do think it's important if you really do want to see where you're at. Yeah, just get some work done. Find a doctor that can help you actually interpret those results, instead of just throwing them at you. But yeah, I think that's a great one.
And as the landscape of health and wellness evolves, there's some pretty cool stuff coming with regards to different ways to get your blood drawn and to sort of interpret the results. I know I think it's Function Health is doing some pretty cool stuff where some of it's even getting into predictive, using AI to look at different things to get ahead of and be preventative with regards to different diseases. So, while you're still healthy, it's good to get ahead of this stuff and be aware of it so you know where you can make some tweaks.
Hmm. For sure. All right, next up, number 12, we have chill out, breathe, slow down. This one is so important. I can tell. Usually it's like in that anywhere from that late morning to early evening, if I am just stressed out, agitated, my fuse is short, if I did an audit on those days of how much time I'm spending just being with myself, it tends to be almost zero or way less than it should be. Uh, I find that when I am able to just, take some deep breaths, to slow down, to just be present in whatever activity I'm doing, it becomes so much easier to just let the stress that just naturally pops up throughout the day just start to wash off. And we have stress in our lives that we can't avoid. And some people have very high stress jobs. Maybe their personal lives are high stress, but that means if you are in one of those situations, it becomes really important to find those times throughout your day, whether it is just driving in the car and just drive, whether, whatever the case is, just being present in those moments is super important, uh, because yeah, it's so easy to get caught up always, looking at your phone, having to listen to this podcast or switch over and talk to this person, whatever the case may be, read this thing on social media. Uh, we got to slow down a little bit and just exist in the present moment.
Yeah, man, in today's world, I think most people just live in like sympathetic nervous system mode.
For
Like we're
sure.
just always stressed out, and you really have to be intentional about interrupting that pattern, like taking some time to breathe, reset, wind down, because these tiny little stresses throughout the course of the day, they just add up and add up and add up and add up, and all of a sudden you're just wound. Yeah, anything you can do to be present to kind of notice when that's starting to occur and interrupt it with these periods of just kind of chill the fuck out. That's essentially what I tell myself from time to time is like getting a little tiff with somebody, work's not going your way, all of a sudden you're sitting in traffic and you're just like on fire, and just to sit there and tell yourself, chill out, dude. Like it's okay. Go into some breathing and reset can be really, really good for managing your stress.
Absolutely.
The next one we have here is to be mindful of your snacking choices and to set yourself up for success. I think a lot of the food choices we make ultimately boil down to convenience a lot of the time, at least for me, and at least for a lot of the
Same.
people that I know.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that leads itself to snacking frequently. And so if you're the type of person that's going to do that, be mindful of it and set yourself up for better snack related choices. And for me, I'm always thinking about protein and fiber. So I keep as many high protein and as many high fiber snacks on hand as I possibly can so that I'm grabbing a yogurt or a string cheese or some carrots or an apple instead of a bag of Doritos or whatever it is that's a less kind of advantageous option.
Yeah. I mean, there are just things that I know can't be in our house. And it doesn't mean that I don't eat them. It just means that when I buy them, they are single serving. They'll be gone that day. It's and chips for sure. Any sort of packaged cookie. If we buy Oreos, those Oreos are gone uh, at the end of the day because they're not going to stick around in the house because they will become snacking options, and that's just not. I know that's something that will get me into trouble, and so I just don't put myself in that situation. And I feel like a lot of people do just go for whatever's convenient, and they go for especially you know if they aren't thinking ahead, they go for the thing that is hyper palatable, really just going to make them feel good in the moment when they're eating it, not think so much about, what they're actually putting in their body and how it's going to make them feel in, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour later. All right. Next up, I love this one. Take breaks to get up and move around. If you, or, you may have heard this referred to as the Pomodoro technique. So if you and that it's a time blocking technique that I absolutely love. And so, if you have a job that requires you to be sitting down, at a desk or wherever for extended periods of time, I highly, highly recommend giving this a shot. So, what you're going to do is you're going to set a timer for 25 minutes, and you are going to focus on one singular task for that entire time. If you complete a task, you can move on to your next one, but you're not bouncing between, a dozen different things. And then at the end of the 25 minutes, when the timer goes off, you set a timer for 5 minutes. And at that point, you get up and move around. You can get yourself a snack. You can, make yourself some tea or refill your new stainless steel water bottle or whatever you want to do. But, get outside, take a quick walk, take those 5 minutes to disconnect. So that doesn't mean browsing social media or doing some online shopping. It means actually disconnecting and then getting back at the end of those 5 minutes and getting ready to work for 25 minutes. Research shows that time blocking like this ends up making things, increases your productivity level uh, by an insane amount. So I love it. It works really well for me, and you should try it out.
Yeah, man, sitting is the new smoking, they say.
Ooh, I
And
like that
there's
headline
the number of different studies. One of them looked at 13 different studies and meta-analyses of sitting time and activity levels, and found that those who sat for 8 hours a day with no physical activity had a risk of dying similar to those that were smokers and those that were obese. So you can kind of throw sitting, prolonged sitting, just sitting on your ass all day, in the same category of risk factors for disease is obesity and smoking. We just weren't biologically, we didn't biologically evolve to live this way, right? Like there was no time in our evolutionary history that we found ourselves sitting on a rock for 8 hours a day.
right
And so as a result of that, like we have to figure out ways to work around that. And this is the Pomodoro method. This is a really good way to do that.
for
Really
sure.
focused period of time for your work or whatever it is you're doing, taking a break to get up and move around.
Hmm.
Next one we have on the list is to slow down during your meals. We've talked about this one on a previous podcast, but we're all in a hurry all of the time, and it's found our way to the period of time where we're supposed to be sitting down, relaxing, present with our food, nourishing our bodies. So easy to eat in the car, eat at your desk. The experience of eating should be a present one. You should sit down, you should slow down, you should chew your food, critically important for digestion. You should breathe, you should get into a parasympathetic state so that you can digest that food effectively. And we're just not, that's not the way we eat right now. Like everything is go, 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 go. And so slowing down while you're eating your food is really critically important.
Yeah, and so I think the easiest way that you can do this is to remove all distractions when you're eating. So, and I know this is going to be a huge bummer for a lot of people, but before eat your dinner before you watch your show. Don't do it at the same time. Don't be scrolling on your phone, when you're eating lunch in the break room. Certainly do your best to avoid eating while driving a car at all costs. The more present that you can be with your meals, the better your food's going to taste, the more enjoyable it's going to be. And, I think just as important, if not more important, the easier of a time your body's going to have digesting. All right. Next up, oh, I love this one. Pay attention to your posture throughout the day. So this was something that I started doing when I was just driving. If I would, I used to be in a profession where I was driving around in cars all the time, and it was the first time really in my entire life that I had experienced any sort of low back pain. And so what I would do is when I was driving, I would just start to pay attention to how my core was bracing. Was I rounding that low back and losing, my core brace? And of course, naturally throughout the day, if you're sitting for long periods of time, you're not going to sit in perfect posture. And that's why it becomes important to just every once in a while just check in. How are my shoulders stacked? What is my rib cage doing, and what is my core, what are my core muscles doing? And just by starting to bring attention to it, you'll naturally begin to start to improve those postural things.
Yeah, man. Over time, the human race is just going to be like a bunch of curved hunchback
Be
people
aliens,
because of how much
little
we
aliens.
sit. It's crazy. Like the caved in lower back, the shoulders rolled forward. Um, Little post-it note on your computer. I did that for a long time because I would totally sit like with my lower back kind of arched and my shoulders rolled forward. And to your point, yeah, I mean, lower back pain, all sorts of postural issues. If it's not getting you now, it will get you later. And it's easy to do, just to be intentional about it. Have a reminder in front of you to get into better posture.
Yeah, and if you are looking to take that to the next level, things like, standing desks are great options if you work from home, but, something as simple as just floor sitting at the end of the day. If I'm going to watch a show or a movie at the end of the day, trying to get off the couch and just, sitting down on the floor and getting comfortable with that is such an awesome way to check in with your posture.
Showing off my standing desk.
Oh, he is. If you are not watching the YouTube or video feed, you are missing out. Um, that's very cool, Dylan. Very cool.
Really nice to have, though. No doubt. I practice what I preach.
I love it.
Um, the next one we have here, I got recently from a James Smith post, and I loved it. His tip was to make swaps, not sacrifices. So much of the nutrition advice, especially on social media, is like you should skip every donut and you should eat a head of broccoli instead.
Oh, or the ones
And that's
that
just
say that are like, if you're craving pizza, what you actually need to eat is a boiled potato. I love that
right.
one.
It's like, what the fuck? No, I wanted the pizza,
Yeah,
you know? And he points out that there's so many different swaps we can make that don't really impact the choice we're making all that much. So, like for example, if you're trying to lose weight, you can go to a lower carb tortilla, has a lot less calories in it. If you're trying to consume less sugar, you can have a diet Coke instead of a regular Coke. And so, starting to think about like what are the things that I enjoy that I eat, and is there a swap that I can make that's a bit better? Instead of just trying to completely remove all of these things that people are suggesting are going to kill us from our diets altogether, is a much more sustainable, practical, implementable way to pursue better health.
yeah. I actually think this goes really nicely with the next point, which I phrased as punch up dinner with higher protein options. And I thought about this one because before I came over here, I was watching a video of a guy, and I wish I could remember his Instagram handle because it's amazing. And he does stuff like this all the time, where he was making a high protein at home version of the Crunchwrap Supreme, and
Oh,
but it was really, it was just simple stuff and probably end up tasting way better. But, like you said, it was low calorie tortilla. He was, making substitutions with the cheese sauce and everything. But when you start to think about ways that you can take stuff that you already like to eat and just make it a little bit more nutritious, whether that is upping the protein or mixing in some different vegetables to make sure that you're getting all the different micronutrients, just finding ways to take things that you already enjoy and just make them a little bit better for you. It keeps things really simple, and I just think it's a great place to start instead of you know going out, buying a cookbook and a healthy cookbook and making things that you're going to try one time. Like I bought Mark Hyman's cookbook. I think you bought it too, actually. You remember that? Did you? Yeah.
yeah.
And he
Yep.
had a zucchini turkey lasagna uh, that I made it one time. It actually tasted just fine. But now, when I make lasagna, I just make lasagna, and I just put I actually what I do now is I just chop up the zucchini and mix it in there, uh, to punch it up a little bit. But, it's just one of those things where you've gotta just take the things that you already enjoy, find ways to make them a little healthier.
Yeah, there's a I don't know if this is the guy you were talking about, but Tasty
That
Shreds,
was it.
um,
That's him.
yeah, is an account on and he takes, like, fast food items and things you'd find in, like, the freezer aisle that are delicious, but typically pretty low in profile to calorie ratio and makes an at-home version of it that's super high protein, and I've made a ton of his stuff, and it's awesome, and it's super high in protein,
Yeah,
and it's very much based on these principles of just, like, making some simple swaps, to get that protein up.
there we go. Shout out Tasty Shreds.
Shout out Tasty Shreds on Instagram. The next one we have on here is super important for me. It's to fast from social media, to intentionally set out some period of time where you're just going to stay the fuck off it altogether because social media is killing us. It is a disaster. And this isn't the right platform to go on a tangent on how I feel about all that, but um, it's just not healthy for us. It's not healthy for us to constantly be consuming. It's not healthy to be constantly inundated with these little hits of dopamine. It's not healthy to be consistently comparing ourselves to other people. So I always feel really good when I just intentionally set aside a period of time where I'm not going to go on it at all. Delete them from your phone, whatever you need to do, log out. Um, Really, really good for you. And I think there's some advantages to having like daily limits as well. But what I'm really talking about here is abstaining from it altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I think that we spend way too much time as a society on not I mean, now it's not even just consuming social media. Now it's talking about it. It's having conversations about, oh, did you see what so and so posted or like this and that? And we are just have this incredibly warped sense of reality. And it's just one of those things where, yeah, every once in a while, go touch grass, man. Just remember that the world is so much bigger than what is on the screens in front of us, and what people are portraying as their real lives on there that's what they want you to see. So yeah, I love that. Not just having the daily limits, but taking the longer breaks altogether. I think that's incredible. All right. Next thing that we got is go to sleep 15 minutes earlier every week until you're getting enough sleep. That is a pretty solid way of just looking at it, because instead of saying, "Well, you know what? I want 8 hours of sleep. I get 6 right now. Now I'm gonna just start going to bed 2 hours earlier every night." No, you're not. Because if you wanted to go to bed 2 hours earlier every night, you would be doing that already. So instead of making these giant leaps that you're not ready to stick to, make small goals that you can accomplish a heck of a lot easier. So just setting that, not just having the morning alarm, but having the evening alarm to have that go off. And now even, with iPhones now have the whole, bedtime, alarm setup where it'll alert you when it's time for you to go to bed. And so I suggest bumping that up 15 minutes earlier every single week until you're at that spot where you feel like you're getting enough sleep.
Yeah, man, sleep is just so important. And I'm always sympathetic when I talk about how important it is because I know how busy people are and how hard it can be to prioritize. But if there was one thing you were going to do to better your health, it would be to figure out how to get more sleep. It will reduce your risk of disease. It will help you maintain a healthy weight. It will help you build and maintain more muscle. The benefits of it's like the biggest rock there is for your health. Sleep is so, so, so important. So if you aren't getting enough, this isn't to say that you should beat yourself up and take a giant leap to try, to your point, Matt, to go from 6 to 8. But can you take some small steps to get you closer to that 8 hours of sleep so that you are getting what your body needs to be restored and to be healthy? I think this 15 minutes every week until you build that habit is a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Next one we have here is related, and that's to have some sort of evening routine. I think every social media influencer on earth has their morning routine,
Yeah.
and they share it on social media and suggest it's like the ideal way to start your day. Um, I think an evening routine is just as, if not more important. And there isn't any prescription to this, right? It's whatever works for you to get yourself to wind down so that when you get into bed at night, you're ready for sleep. You're giving your body what it needs to be prepared to do that. You do have to wind down to achieve that. So some simple tips are like, and some of it starts even earlier in the day, like limit your caffeine intake after noon. Really important. Caffeine has a fairly long half life. It can keep you up at night. Um, at 1 hour before you're planning to go to sleep, make sure that you're off of all screens because that blue light is incredibly disruptive to your circadian rhythm and your body's natural production of melatonin. Um, it could be a number of different things. Read a book, write in a journal, whatever it is that helps you to wind down so that when your head hits that pillow, you're chilled out and you're prepared for sleep is super important.
Yeah, I mean, if you have kids or if you don't, you remember when you were a kid and your parents would have to get you ready for bed. If they just all of a sudden said, "All right, time for bed," tossed you in there and shut off the lights, what would you do? You'd sit there and whine and cry and you wouldn't be able to fall asleep because your body and your
Mm-hmm.
mind were not in a place to do that. And yet so often now we just sit there on the couch until finally our eyes are starting to close on their own and we're like, all right, time to go to bed. And you turn off the TV, you go upstairs, hopefully you brush your teeth, and then you just go lay down in bed, probably looking at your phone the entire time, and then wondering why you're feeling like shit in the morning. Well, you need to treat yourself like a child a little bit more sometimes. Give yourself that morning routine, or excuse me, that evening routine so that you have those guardrails. I turn off the TV at this point. I'm off my phone by this point. This actually goes right into our next point, so we might as well address it now, and that's limiting screen time. Uh, for sure, in bed, I understand that an hour before going to bed is just not going to happen for a lot of people. Though I would challenge people to really question, why they're struggling with that so much. But if you're not going to give up the screen a full hour before bed, then at least set some guardrails where maybe it's just as simple as no phone in bed, but limiting that screen time. I mean, one, because of if you're on your phone, you're probably on social media, and we already talked about what that can do, what that does to your brain and the places that takes it. But then we're also talking about the blue light. So if you are going to spend time on your phone, late at night, there are ways that you can filter out that blue light. It makes your phone all red and look kind of badass. But so I would just challenge you to actually try and limit that screen time and eliminate it altogether.
Dude, I shit you not. As you were saying that, my computer went into night
There we
mode.
go.
That was trippy. Um, but yeah, my wife calls me a TV bum. Like I wind down with TV. I get through my day 8 9 p.m. I hit the couch for an hour and I like to watch TV. So I recognize how important it is to limit my screen time before bed, but it's difficult for me. I'm absolutely not on my phone at all. That's really important. And I try to keep the lighting in the house down or off altogether as well. So that's super important. You can even try things like blue light blocking glasses.
Yeah,
If you are going to be watching some TV before you go to bed, those have proven to be effective. So recognize that it can be tough, but can be really impactful for the ability to fall asleep and the quality of your sleep overall.
for sure.
Next one we have here is to practice gratitude. And anytime anybody says this, I feel like it's so corny, but it's so damn true.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly impactful. The only choice we have in life is our response and our actions associated with things that are happening around us. And anytime anything happens to us or around us, we have a choice to make, right? Like we can be pessimistic about it, we can be mad about it, or we can be grateful for it, or intentionally or sort of proactively grateful in recognizing how good things are, and that can waterfall, right? It can lead to more good things occurring. Somebody once, I don't remember who it was, said that they got a parking ticket one morning, and their natural response to that, I think most people's natural response would be like, fuck this sucks, what a shitty start to my day. And this person instead was really intentional about saying, I'm really grateful that this parking ticket is just a simple nuisance in my life, and that I have the means to be able to pay for it and go about my day. And I just think like that reframing exercise around, again, things that are happening to us or for us or around us can be so incredibly impactful to how we experience and see the world.
Yeah, I mean, I know that this isn't exactly a, a fitness tip, but damn, dude, if you can just find ways to be more grateful throughout the day. Um and one thing that is really really helpful for me, I saw a podcast clip that actually I'm pretty sure you shared it with me, and this was years ago. But it was a woman, not going to remember who it was, but she said, the most impactful thing that you can do to change your outlook on life is the first thing you do before you go to bed, and the first thing you do, or the last thing you do before you go to bed, and the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning is think about three things that you're grateful for. And if you can just start and end your day with those simple practices, and it's just before you close your eyes, what am I grateful for today? You will notice a huge impact on just how you carry yourself throughout the day. Water finds its level. If you are looking for the good in your day, you will find it more often than not. And that's not to say that your life is just going to become, easy breezy. But when you face that adversity, you're going to be in a much better position to handle it. So, I love that one so much. Do you have anything else to say about gratitude before we move
Yeah, I
on?
just was gonna. I think I've shared this on the podcast before, but this literally does that for you. It's the 5 minute gratitude journal, and it's fun because it has prompts. So every morning, every night, it just has little prompts like something I get to do today that I've always wanted to do, which I think is just cool, right? Like it gets you thinking kind of outside of the box of things that you might traditionally be grateful for, and really helps you to kind of expand your perspective on how great your life really is.
Yeah, the little victories.
Little victories, man.
All right. Next thing, I mean, we started number one, wake up at a consistent time. Next, go to sleep at a consistent time. Now we know, on weekends, maybe you're going out with friends, maybe you go to a concert or a game or whatever. But that should really be the once in a while, the rarity. More often than not, you should really crave a schedule. And the easiest way that you can make sure that you're getting enough sleep is to make sure that you're going to sleep uh, at a around the same time every single night. And it also, once you set yourself a bedtime, all the other stuff, the nighttime routine, knowing when to, you know, uh, turn off the TV or start looking away from the phone, all of those things can start to fall into place because now when you're going to bed is no longer random. I once we turned into adults and we figured out that we could make our own bedtimes, a lot of us just decided that, we were never going to have a bedtime. We're just going to go to sleep when we feel like it. And, that's so stupid. You got to be an adult. And sometimes to be an adult, you got to treat yourself like a kid.
And our bodies are adaptation machines. So they get used to this schedule too. And again, this is playing into that whole circadian rhythm thing. So your body will start to expect, a schedule of some sort with regards to your sleep, because biologically we have this internal clock. And so by going to bed at a consistent time and waking up at a consistent time, you're ensuring that you're getting the correct amount and the correct quality of sleep every night to be restorative for what you need for the next day. you start to interrupt or fluctuate with that too much, it can have some downstream effects on that overall circadian rhythm, which is so important to our health.
For sure.
Number 25,
Oof, we did it.
the final tip. This is an interesting one that works really good for me, um, and I was reminded of it because I've recently had a child and was learning about this traditional kind of Nordic strategy for helping
I love this.
children fall asleep,
Yeah.
which is to get cold before you go to bed and or get your room really, really cool. So I think it was like Norway, where they literally open the windows in the kid's bedroom in the winter
Mhm.
to get the room as cold as possible around bedtime, and then close the windows, put the kids to sleep in this super cold room. But we know that we fall asleep much better and we sleep much better in cooler temperatures than warm ones. And so, it may run up your AC bill a bit, but really important for that room temperature to be cooler to fall asleep and to get quality sleep. A cold shower can work
Yeah.
in the wintertime. I like to just, our bedroom has doors that go right out onto the porch. I like to just step outside for 10 seconds, get really cold, and then get into bed. But this is a really good one for falling asleep and getting quality sleep.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like me, where you don't have AC and you live on, or your bedroom is on the top floor, and it can get a little hot, especially this time of year. A nice fan, like just a fan that's going to circulate some air, is huge. But also, I am a massive cold shower before bed guy. I think that it is such a nice way to get your body ready for bed. So I love
Dude,
it.
you need to get a window AC unit.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a possibility, Dylan. But we don't have one currently.
Oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah, well,
Holy
I
moly,
mean,
we
I was supposed to, we live next door to nature's greatest air conditioner, the lake, but unfortunately, it's getting hot up here, man.
dude,
Yeah, so yeah, I'm
it's been
starting to see
brutal.
the appeal.
That wraps the list, man. 25 episodes.
Woof, we're doing this, man. Wow, yeah, that's crazy. Um, so yeah, now we'll just have to think of 25 more for when we hit episode 50.
A list of 50 4-hour long podcasts.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Dylan, do you have a question, an audience question?
I
I
do.
don't have one today.
Yeah, so this person wanted to know what you do or any tips you might have for sort of post-workout recovery.
Oh, love it. Okay. So the one of my favorite things to do is just spend, a few minutes with some deep stretching. And I would like, and I'm going to, say I'm going to try and target areas that I just specifically worked. So if I was doing barbell back squat, I'm going to end my session with a long, like 2 to, honestly, like, could be as long as 5 minutes couch stretch. Or if I was just doing like bicep curls, I really like, even just like a farmer's carry, which I know doesn't seem like a stretch, but just something that you can do to really just elongate those muscles that you just spend so much time tightening. But then also, honestly, I love the post workout sweat, and strength training. A lot of times doesn't really get me, that real heavy sweat that I look for when I work out. So what I like to do is either post workout sauna, or find, some sort of cardio to get into. So whether that is playing pickleball, or just hopping on the bike or the rower for a little bit after, just something to take my sweat to the next level. But then if they're thinking more recovery, then yeah, I'm gonna do some stretching and I get freaking hungry after I work out. So I'm gonna find a nice high protein meal to eat.
Yeah, dude, stretching's an interesting one because you grow up playing sports, and the coach would always have you stand in a circle and do these long static stretches of your hamstrings and your quads and your triceps or whatever. And actually, that's not really a very good idea before you
Before,
do rigorous exercise,
right?
which is oftentimes what they had you do because it actually puts you into a parasympathetic state. It winds your body down, those long static stretches. So before activity, you should be doing more active kind of stretching, 5-second hold sort of a deal. But because it puts you into that parasympathetic state, those long static stretches, really good post workout, really good before bed, um, to help you wind down and get some quality sleep. The number one tip from my perspective for post workout recovery is to get good sleep. If you're not getting good sleep and you're working out hard, you're not going to get the results that you want to see. We know that from countless studies. So make sure you're getting good sleep. Some of the stuff more on the fringes, I love a good Epsom salt bath. I don't have access to a sauna like you do, Matt, but from time to time, a bath with some magnesium salts can be really good for recovery. And yeah, just keep moving, right? Like some walking, really good for recovery. Like on the day after, you don't want to just like sit around all day. You find yourself quite sore, and it's not so good for giving those muscles what they need to recover.
Yeah, and a really great way to help those muscles recover after a hard workout is cold exposure. Though uh, we'd recommend that you wait a couple hours after your pump to get in that cold water, just because it does what it's supposed to do, which is it stops inflammation, and in order to help your
Mhm.
muscles grow, that inflammatory stage is important. So I love especially this time of year. The water around us is still a little chilly, so I love going to the beach and getting a swim in after. But I do try to wait a little while before I get in there. So, all right, that will do it. Now it is time for the best segment ever created. It is the I Lift a sad song of the week. Dylan, it's my song this week. And so I'm going to introduce not you, but the listeners to a band that most people probably haven't heard of. It's one of my absolute favorite bands of all time. It is the Dead Soldiers. They are a
Ooh.
wonderful, wonderful band from Memphis, Tennessee, and they have a song on their High Anxiety EP called Nobody's Son that is an absolute sad banger. Highly recommend it. You're gonna love it. Uh, everybody's gonna love it. So please check it out.
Been a long time since I've listened to the Dead Soldiers. Thanks for the reminder.
They just came out with a new EP recently. It's pretty good.
Sweet.
All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.